Okay, welcome to the Flux Dev Meeting.
Hey,
It's
friend.
August 27th.
August 27. It's the EU time slot. Uh, I guess it looks like we've got me, Kingdon, Augie, Adrian, and Chen Shi today. Does anyone have proposed topics that they want to add for the meeting?
Hello everyone. I would like to talk a bit about this hotel RFC, if
Okay.
possible.
Cool. Mark down for the hotel RFC. And for me, I got talk slightly about administering data, just as an update. And then Augie, Chenchi, Kingdon might be away. But if you have any topics as well, we can put that on the agenda. Uh, just feel free to interject. Cool. And then okay, let's start with the hotel RFC. Um, I saw that Mateus had just put a couple of questions in there, but what would you like to discuss, Adrian?
Um, I saw the comments also yours about the alert enemy convention. I was
Mm,
about to answer, but I prefer to work on the code just to have
hmm
something um more or less working. Let me open the comments. Oh yeah, about the one of the things that Mateus was highlighting was the why I was, let's see, replacing the password and the token as other uh, type providers does, and it was just basically to follow the logic that if the username is set, we can consider that is a basic authentication, username and password. And if not, we are going to consider the token. So um, that was why I was kind of replacing one of the other, because the criteria in reality is going to be based on the username. If it's set, that was my idea. And then there was another comment about the test, and this is something that I already tackled. I haven't pushed my code yet, but I already tackled that in the new patch that I'm going to push. After this meeting. But what I wanted to discuss is show you how it looks like. I can share my screen. If it's possible, I can show you a little bit how it looks like based on the use cases that we
Yeah.
discussed in the
Uh-huh.
previous calls.
Yeah, I can even maybe take some screenshots and paste them into the notes. Anything notable, at least?
Yeah. Can I share my screen then?
Yeah,
Or
go ahead.
okay.
Um,
Yeah. Okay. Are you able to see my browser, my Firefox?
it is coming up somewhat slowly for me. Yeah, it's getting more clear now. Looks good.
Okay. Okay, perfect. So, well, as we discussed, the use case was basically, I have it here just to have my notes. So basically we have three main use cases. One was having a Git repository customization and then a config map. Then we have final share repository and a hem release. And the other one was a hem chart and a hem release. The hem chart could come from a hem repository, for example. But the linear source was not important. So now about the first one, which is the Git repository customization and config map, this is how it looks like. So Now we are going to have a trace um, with which the convention that we mentioned, like flag system, which is the dollar namespace at the dollar name.
Yeah.
And then here we have, let's say, the first span, which is the Git repository, test one, and test repo, which is namespace and name.
Yes. Uh-huh.
So if I go underneath, you should be able to see the Git repository with a bunch of tags. The cloud region, deployment, cluster name, all of them are based on this event metadata, but I haven't got to them from the alert itself. I just got them by the metadata that you get from the event. So what I did is basically format this a little bit. I'm following the tag keys because I mean, Ocean does have some naming conventions. So I decided to follow them in order to populate this data. So they
Uh-huh.
have this cloud region, deployment environment name, and KS cluster name. And apart from this, we have the object kind, object name, object namespace. This is for this specific one, the UID, the scope, the revision. And if there is any other metadata that we include as part of our customization or any other metadata will get populated here as well as tags. And then here we have the service namespace, which refers to the alert and the alert UAD. So that will be the information that we might find. And also we have the customization over here, which really the same concept. If you see here, for example, we have the summary. That could be one of the differences.
Mhm.
This is coming from the event metadata as well. So yeah, that will be in a nutshell how it might look like from the Git repository and the customization. Yeah, any doubt at this point?
So the span here, that's kind of cool to see, I guess, like the duration in between them. Looks like can you
Yeah, you have here
see
sort
that
of,
in Jaeger?
yeah, you have here kind of the sequence. So
Uh-huh.
this will be kind of the Git repository. Oh, sorry, because it's verified. You have here the Git repository, and then you have here what is about the customization, I think.
Yeah. It does that if you like highlight that portion of the span, does it tell you how long um that
Yeah,
duration?
you have here the duration, yes.
What about the time in between these two traces? Like if I'm curious. I've
Ah,
never.
you mean between this one and this one?
Yeah,
You
yeah, yeah.
might get it.
Right there.
Perhaps you perhaps you can play around this trace timeline to get that. I haven't checked that really. Yeah, you have here the statistics. So here, perhaps. Um, but I haven't checked this. Good point. You have, well, here you have the duration. Well, here you have the frame graph. Might work. You have the percent of the time of the whole trace. And then you have yeah. Looks like each every single span like it populates and it remains till the other one uh, let's say gets pushed. So let's say the Git repository, I don't think it might take that long, but till the other one crops up or yeah, it's available here.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it doesn't show up, I guess.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah, it feels like that's something that would be a common thing to wonder about. There must be a way to. Anyway, I'm just wondering
yeah,
about Jaeger features, but
yeah. I mean, I populate the timestamp that you get from the event, so
you could
in
just
principle
compare
should be
timestamps. Yeah.
yeah. I don't know how you measure it. Perhaps we can add some, I don't know, some maths or something. But what I
Mhm.
just did is just getting the timestamp for the event and populate it over as part of the
Yeah.
span.
This is like what you'll see in say like a degraded customized controller, or a degraded Kubernetes API. Is that like queuing will occur quickly, but
Mhm,
flushing the queue will not,
mhm.
and that'll result in higher latency between these two spans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, in this case, I changed a little bit the behavior behind it. Previously was following kind of a batch processing, which is queuing up all the spans and send them out. But I thought that for our use cases were better if it's simply sending on the span once it's, let's say, it's available and created.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm sure that
Yeah.
the like whenever the spans come in is fine. Like that's a separate property of the system. Like I'm just
Yeah.
talking about like the behavior of customized controller, like picking up and reconciling the change for the customization,
Yeah.
which in this case was actually much faster than the Git repository.
Yeah.
But
Well, it's
in
just two
other use
objects, so.
cases, it will be very slow, like
Oh yeah.
it'll take much longer for the customization to get worked on if
Yeah.
it's working on thousands of others. But
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, in this case, it's just a couple of config maps which are
mhm.
very, very, it's just a one line. So yeah, I
Mhm.
guess it took not that long. But yeah, if we have a compelling deployment, yeah, it's going to, perhaps it could be even longer. Yeah,
It's kind of
than
interesting
the,
when you include both of these spans that there isn't like a time for like nothing. You know what I'm saying? Like these two spans in context of each other, there's empty time.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but that's not, yeah, that there's it's not measuring like the time in between them.
Yeah, yeah, that's true.
Nothing for that.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know how to measure that. I think what it does basically is like in the timeline, perhaps we can, I mean, by playing with Jagger, we can get a better idea. But I think what it just does is like it gets the timestamp and just paste it and say measurable. Here we have yeah, perhaps this time that we have here, now that you mention.
Yeah, you really think that there would be some way to compare those two timestamps, huh? I feel like this is just
Yeah, it should,
like this is probably just like a knowledge thing. Like there must be some way to do it.
yeah,
I feel like but
yeah, absolutely. I think it's
because
a matter of playing
logically
with Jagger.
there
Yeah,
would be no span, like in disparate systems, or like if you were working on a concurrency problem, even within the same program, right? Like there would be nothing in between those things, and you would want to know. Like how long did it take
yeah.
between those? All right, cool. Well, this use case is you're showing the Git repo and customization looks good to me. The metadata for the AWS region, is that just
Hmm.
like a heuristic thing? Is you mentioned that you hadn't pushed the code yet, so
Yeah,
let's
yeah,
see code.
yeah. Uh, yeah, I haven't pushed the code, and this you mean the convention, right? The cloud region here, or
Hmm.
yeah, about that. Let me paste it here in the chat, and you can open it on your laptop. Might be a bit easier. Is this semcom that I think they are trying to promote because it's available in the SDK, but yeah, it's in the chat already. Is this OpenTelemetry SEM conversion convention? It's kind of a way to name convention all the things that could be common. They have uh, uh, I, I, I don't know how many attributes they have there that you can populate over, and I just try to place here the ones that might make sense with the data that we are populating. I mean, it doesn't
Hmm.
necessarily need to be like this. I can just directly populate the event, metadata, key, a value
Yeah,
pair as it is.
you
It could
didn't
be
do
done.
anything specific in the implementation to be supporting these key names. It's just something that you put into event metadata.
No, no, no. This I implement something to have these specific keys.
I
What I
see.
mentioned is like I can just populate the if you like the key value pair, and that's all. It could be
Yeah,
done.
because like obviously a Kubernetes and Docker cluster or something is not going to be exposing information about an AWS region or something.
Yeah. Okay.
But
Yeah, I can remove that. Yeah.
uh
It was because I found out this somewhere that I shared in the chat, and I thought, well, just follow the naming conventions that the hotel has. But yeah, it doesn't have to necessarily be.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's if there's something in there that makes sense for people to standardize their information and it's picking up.
Hmm.
I don't know what information like it would be grabbing from, but
Yeah.
because that's not just something that you set on event metadata there, it's like parsing from something.
Yeah. What I did basically is parsing the event metadata, and if the cluster name exists, I just let's say remap it with KS cluster name. They have a specific methods just to populate this quickly, like just setting up the
Mhm.
value and the key will come out of the box.
Yeah, if there's some
Um,
sort of
yeah.
community mapping that's like built into the provider that makes sense for everybody and
Hmm.
progresses into features for different environments,
Yeah.
that sounds fine to me. I noticed,
Yeah.
Chenchi, that you posted a question in the Zoom chat, just
Ah,
asking if this is an interface for Flux and what the configuration is. The context here is that Adrian is looking at a tool called Jaeger, which
mhm.
uh, is capable of displaying spans of time that are submitted to Jaeger with open telemetry. And
Yeah.
Adrian's been instrumenting the different Flux controllers, which have different jobs, right? Like there's source controller, and there's Helm controller and customized controller and etc. And when the controllers do things on behalf of resources, then it's basically submitting time information about how long those things took and what metadata is associated with them so that they can be aggregated together inside of
Mhm.
Jaeger, which is a separate project. Um,
Mhm. Yeah.
so yeah, sorry, missed your question when it came in 10 minutes ago, but feel free to keep asking more. Um, cool. Uh, I kind of moved on from that topic of having specific mappings, Adrian, but that feels reasonable to
Yeah.
me. Um,
Okay.
I was just mainly curious about it because I didn't see it in the PR initially. So when that's ready, feel free to push that up. It doesn't have to be perfect. We can always review it iteratively. Um,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah. Another question was Senshi, I think, in the chat.
yeah. And you're wondering how to prevent the situation of the Kubernetes cluster being reset during the workflow of Flux. Um, this is, I think what you're asking is that, like, say, if the cluster itself is going down, or if there are resources that people are manually reconfiguring inside of the cluster, what will Flux do, and how do you work around that? Um, Flux is always going to try to continuously work on whatever you request it to do. So as long as Flux is running and Kubernetes is running, then the various resources will always be reconciling. So if something shuts down when it comes back, Flux will try to ensure that the desired state is
Mhm.
is ensured. So if in Git you have a deployment with 5 replicas, your cluster goes down and that deployment wasn't rolled out, the cluster comes back, somebody sets it to 3 replicas. Eventually, shortly after Flux notices, Flux will just go and fix that, even if nobody's doing anything in Git. Um, and will there have the duplicate backup during each commit in Flux? Mm,
Are you saying replicas? Because Flux runs with individual single replicas for each controller, unless you run in sharded mode.
mm,
Um, right. What you just said, Lee, it all makes sense for Kubernetes controllers at large, but in the Flux world, we don't have multiple replicas. So if the cluster, I'm using EKS auto mode, so I have this problem too. and I've had to do some fine tuning to make sure that the developers who are pushing changes constantly don't perceive it as an outage when there is, in fact, an outage, but it's already recovered, and the Flux controllers aren't reconciling yet because it's not time. It's a challenging problem to solve, and I don't know if we can go into detail about it on the call,
Yeah,
the dev meeting,
there.
but
If you have an outage on like the nodes where Flux is hosted, then like
hopefully that the controllers are drained safely, like rolling restart. If you just call kubectl drain, it simulates a not so friendly restart. It just starts evicting pods. So
Mhm.
you get a longer outage then.
Yeah, if you want failover, the Flux controllers do support leader election, so you can run more than one replica, even without sharding. Um, so they they will pick up for each other on their leader election key when one controller becomes unavailable for long enough.
The
It,
other tools that I use to help solve that problem are monitoring, which I've had to add some special monitoring so that I get visibility around when those events are happening,
Mhm.
because Carpenter doesn't have a notification controller. So Carpenter won't, that I am not aware of any documented way for Carpenter to let you know that it's rolling nodes. But that information is really helpful when you start seeing errors in your Flux notifications.
Are you monitoring on that with like Alert Manager and Prometheus?
I am using Alert Manager in Prometheus, but I haven't written metrics for node claims or node claim events yet.
Uh,
What I did instead, I have, it's called a Flux event relay. I haven't released this anywhere, but it's like 100 lines of Go code. And it just takes whatever objects, involved objects you're concerned about, in this case, node claims. I don't know if you're using EKS auto mode, but there might be a similar object that emits events. They're emitted into the default namespace, and I just replay them to the notification controller. And that allows me to generate alerts. There's one more change you need to make in order for that to work, because the notification controller only monitors for Flux resources by default. But you just change the CRD, and then that's not the case anymore. Tofu controller did it first.
yeah, I guess just last thing on this is you technically should be able to just run multiple replicas of the controllers. This isn't a very common thing that I see. But one of like for each pair or set of controllers that you're running, one of them should win the leader election key and become the leader. And you just have the others on standby. Other pieces, receivers, not relying on intervals as much. Yeah.
If your interval is 10 minutes and your interval arrives during an outage, um, it will still reconcile when it's done, but it might not succeed depending on which controllers come up in what order. So you might perceive that there's been a 10 or 15-minute outage. But if you have receivers, you just push again and your change goes in, and it doesn't
Oh,
have
I see what you're
reception then.
saying,
Yeah.
Kingdon. Like if customized controller didn't come up and it like misses an event from a source being reconciled, then it might take a while for a source to reconcile again.
Hmm.
Yeah. I think in that case, if you're trying to avoid those sorts of edge triggered disruptions from outages, then yeah, multi-replica would probably cover you there. If you're seeing that regularly, I'd be really interested to hear you bump up the controllers that you want to come up first to multiple replicas and see if that maybe addresses your issues. Um, okay. Adrian, I know we got a little bit off
Yeah.
topic. You just showed the
Yeah.
first use
No
case. Did you
worries.
want to run through more?
Yeah, I just wanted the second and third quickly. I mean, the metadata is should be barely the same, but just to show you how it looks like. So this is the OCI hem releases. So here I have an OCI and multiple hem releases. What you mentioned about the having it in parallel, we can see it here, making
Mhm.
all the starts at the same time.
That's cool.
Yeah, and also it means that what we talked last week about this logic of the OCI repository, that it differs a little bit, the revision, everything, it works because everything is under one.
Hmm.
So yeah, here you have the OCI with all the tagging, the revision, and here you have the hand release with all the information. Also added a summary, but yeah, just to add more information just to see.
Yeah.
And here you have the three hand releases.
It didn't dawn upon me the significance of this
Mm,
when Stefan recommended it, but yeah, like
mm,
you leave in if you put like 20 Helm releases in here, like
yeah,
you'll start to see the work queue,
yeah,
the concurrency limit as well.
yeah,
If a
yeah,
concurrency is 4, right, then yeah, it
yeah,
won't be yeah, they won't be all happening in parallel. They'll end up splaying out. That's very cool. I like that.
yeah. And also the depends on, that would be really cool to
Yeah,
see, because
depends
if you
on
have
will
a
splay
depend,
out as
yeah,
well.
yeah, because you might see how one just finishes and the other one comes up. So yeah,
Yeah, and depends on has like a configurable latency as well on the controller that
mhm,
if you tune it, you would see differences. So this will be
mhm,
really helpful for people who are considering thousands of customizations or Helm releases or updates and things like that to really understand what Flux is doing across all of the resources and how they relate to each other. I
yeah.
I'm getting more excited about this. Yeah.
Thank you, thank you.
Um,
What
have you played
yeah.
much with like lots of events where like you're kind of just looking at everything?
I just focus on the use cases just to get the proper info
Yeah.
populated. But I can try to have, I don't know, 20, 30 releases coming up
Yeah,
with
it's
some
just to kind of see when
dependencies.
there's a little bit of chaos, like what it feels like
Yeah.
to use it. That might be like a useful, thing to
Mm,
try and be like,
yeah.
hey, this is what it looks like for somebody considering their entire platform. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, sure. I can have a note, especially with the pencil and everything. I think could be really cool to see. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. And the other one was the hem chart. So here we have the hem chart with the corresponding hem releases.
Hmm.
Um, I will add this in the notes in the pull request, just about the summary. In some previous comment, I added that perhaps it would be good to add the summary because it looks like there is no restriction in terms of the value unless you specifically set it up in your Jagger or whatever monitoring tool you're using. So I think it would be good if we can add the summary, because I think the restriction comes more from let's say from the event, from the event message, more than what is can be populated here in the auto. I already shared some notes there, but we can discuss that in the pull request or now if you like.
Okay.
Uh, and yeah, and that will be all. Here you have the hem release, I guess, because I don't have the summary. I don't know what the hem release is doing. That's why I was I was mentioning that. And here you see that the both that you have here the two hem releases and also the hem chart, which might be the source as we discuss, and well, and the same metadata or tags that we've seen over the rest.
Mhm.
Yeah. So that was all. That's the latest shape of the codes. I will post that as I said at the end of the day, because I wanted to add some comments. Have improve a bit the code readability. And I will post that right away. I have one thing that I wanted to discuss, but perhaps we can discuss at the end of the forum. I don't want to kidnap Dev Meeting. But it's about the the root spans. If you see here, all the events that I'm populating as spans are just in one level. You see here the depth is just one.
Mhm.
And it would be good because this trace is based on an alert. And here I just have one Git repository, but imagine that I have more and then my
Yes.
alert. There are
Uh-huh.
more. All of them will get listed down here, but without not a specific parent-child relationship. So it would be good to have that in order to see, okay, this is I have my alert, I have my collection of sources, and then under my source, I have all the resources listed down underneath. So I'm able to see the correlation between my sources and the objects that might get instantiated into my cluster. More
I
than
feel like
having a huge list.
it wouldn't be
Yeah.
like source to reconcile, it would be alert to everything else, right? Is that what you're suggesting?
No, no, my point is like you have I mean, this service, the service corresponds to to the alert really, no? So imagine that I have here a Git repository that is spans out some collection of spans. But if you see here, this is a list. So I don't have any parent-child relationship. So it will be good if we can have I mean, the customization belongs to this Git repository and so on, because imagine, for example, that I'm using the same Git repo, but for another customization. Then here we are going to have another customization below, and so on and so forth. So it would be good to have, let's say, this parent-child relationship, like having Git repository as parent and the customization or whatever other thing uh, underneath or as a child.
Because the customization doesn't necessarily, I mean, like you don't have like an object ID that I guess like what ID would you
Yeah, to have as unique.
the
Yeah,
only unique ID that's shared between the
yeah,
the events of different controllers here that is going to be the alert.
yeah. Yeah, that's true. That's
So
true.
the like the alert, not that you couldn't do more work, and try to cache IDs for when other things come in and then maybe optimistically
Yeah,
staple it together like that.
yeah,
I feel like that's getting sort of into the same kind of discussion that we've gotten
yeah,
into about how spans relate to each other.
yeah,
And yeah, I'm not saying like no, we shouldn't do that, but it does feel similar to like other sorts of span correlation
yeah,
problems. And
yeah. Yeah, I got
uh,
your point.
it makes sense that there's a desire, to like
Yeah,
bucket reconcilers to what sources triggered them. Uh,
yeah,
and the most common use case, like we'll have like a tree kind of flow like that, but
yeah,
there could also be many sources with, like many reconcilers, and you want to view them all at once in one alert, or
yeah,
um, yeah, like multiple regions of something or different target clusters. And I feel like the
yeah,
alert seems to be kind of like the sink that's relating everything together.
yeah.
So if
Yeah,
you're
no, no.
alerting on everything in a particular namespace or something that it all ends up
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, I mean, in reality, I mean, this row here, it refers to a trace, and
Mm,
a trace span, and the trace span subsequently gathers multiple spans, no? So the trace span is based on, as we discussed, the alert UAD and the revision.
mm,
So it's really, I mean, it's really attached with the alert as well as the source. It's tightly related.
mm,
But my point was more about the spans that you have underneath. So I mean, I if you see the code, there's a specific logic in order to have an trace AD that might bundle everything. But my point is more about the spans, be able to also have the relationship with the spans.
Yeah,
And I
like I
will,
want to query, like show me
yeah,
all of the spans that relate to this source, including, Helm releases or something.
yeah, so,
That
sort of be
that
able to
makes sense.
visualize that. Yeah, be able to visualize that out of the box. I mean, you can always query here by adding tags. I mean, every single metadata that I got here, it could be a filter when you are querying.
Hmm.
So, I mean, if you would like to see all the Git repositories, you can just point to this service and add
Yeah,
here
but I want to
what's
see the Helm releases, that got triggered by a Git repository. That would be difficult.
yeah, exactly. And also having it just here, say, looking at this and see, okay, I have a Git repository, and I know that
Mhm.
this is the parent of this customization, and be able to have it just visualize and having more depth. That was
Yeah.
one of my concerns.
It's like
Uh,
it feels like the kind of thing that would be difficult to do without some sort of state tracking.
yeah.
Um,
Mhm,
but I agree that that would be unquestionably useful if you have
yeah.
proposals on how to do that cleanly. I'm sure
Mhm,
Stefan is gonna have input on that as well.
yeah.
I'm open to it.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, no, I mean, this is a long discussion, I know. It was just to to bring it up and yeah.
yeah,
Uh,
however you want to staple that information in there in a way. I mean, I would be fine even if it was just a string of the source ref. That
mm,
was like an event metadata on the reconciler. It feels reasonable to me that when you are reconciling, a Git repository and you're submitting a
mm,
span for that, that
mm,
you would know the name of the Git repo. Um,
mm,
and then similarly, when you're reconciling a Helm release, you would know Helm release information, but at that same time, you would also know stuff about the source that you're talking to. So if we
mhm,
want to staple some event metadata in a standard way onto the Helm release that includes info about what source it was looking at,
mhm.
um, there might be some strange differences with like the OCI repo use case, but
Yeah.
maybe being able to see, like
Mm,
these Helm releases are all pointing to the same Git repo
mhm,
or
mhm.
the same Helm chart or something. Um,
Okay.
that'll never happen, but um, yeah, the same
Yeah.
OCI repo. That
Mm.
if we put that event metadata on the span, is there like a separate mechanism in Jaeger to relate those spans together, or is that just something that
Mm,
you would query for?
no, it's based on the span ID, and the problem is, and that was because it's been kind of um, challenging for me trying to visualize this because they are everything is based on IDs. So
Yes.
in order to be able to gather all these spans into the trace is because they use the same trace ID. And the same relationship applies with the spans. So if you would like to say that this customization is the child of this one, the span ID of this one should refer to the Git repository.
Yeah, but
And the
our
problem,
our
yeah,
span IDs are related to the resource IDs of the alert and the thing that's being reconciled, right?
well, no, the alert UID is just the trace ID is the one that
Oh, the
refers
trace
to the
ID.
alert UID. Yeah, the trace
The
ID.
span IDs, why
Is
would they have the
is
same?
random. Currently, it's random because one of the problems is like you cannot if you force and specific span ID, it will reject it because it says that there is no correlation with it. So what I am, as far as I understood, is like you have to create your span and retrieve it somehow, and that's why you can start having these relationships because if you said something that it does not exist in Jagger, they will complain. It will say, I don't know which span idea you're referring to. So it's kind of a chicken and egg problem as well. Yeah,
I see. Like
yeah.
yeah, so say in like if you were relating these things in like a call stack, um,
Hmm.
then like the runtime or compiler, would be able to save this previous span as a variable and then,
Yeah.
like bucket everything underneath that. But
Yeah.
I mean, at least in this case, right, like the like notification controller like
Hmm.
does have the context. It's just you would need state. Like this
Yeah. Hmm.
like
That's true.
you would need to hold on to this span ID at a minimum for the time it takes in, that time interval like I was just talking
Yeah.
about, where it's like in
Hmm.
how long is it like in between these two events?
Yeah.
Like it could be like in practice it's, a couple of milliseconds, but
Yeah.
it could be hours. Um,
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. No. No. That's true. That's true.
so, and then like you're not going to persist that information to disk, right? So if the
Hmm.
controller fails, like you will lose the correlation between things. But I'm not saying that we can't do it. Maybe there's something reasonable here that could be done, to
Yeah.
relate these spans together.
Yeah.
I You
Hmm.
could optimistically hold on to them. The thing is, like,
Yeah.
the observability use cases are most useful when stuff is breaking, right? So
Yeah. That's
making
true.
it behave properly when it's like, oh, I'm expecting some correlation to happen, and now in the broken case for these ones that are
Hmm.
reconciling slowly, like I don't see it. So like
Yeah.
we have to kind of think about that. But
Yeah.
um
Okay. Hmm. Okay. Yeah. I was thinking about, I don't know, annotation for propagating some annotations, something like that, to keep kind of the relationship, or yeah, propagating the span ID.
can
But
you open the
yeah.
customization on screen there? Like just
Yeah.
the not the actual resource, but just the event metadata in the trace.
Oh yeah. You mean? Sorry, let me raise my screen. It was just
Trying to
see.
imagine
Yeah.
what.
You mean customization manifest or?
No, 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 no. Just what you had on screen there. Just open it
Ah,
in
okay,
Jaeger.
sorry. Ah, okay, my bad. Yeah, here.
Yeah. Because like in here, yeah, we don't get an indication, right, that this customization is related to any particular kind of source.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but
Well,
like if
mhm,
you if you're reconciling a bunch of stuff from the same sport source, like you probably know what namespaces you intend, right? So you could filter on namespace. You could be looking for some other kind of label.
mhm,
It could be reasonable to add like the source ref in here. Because at least if it was in the event metadata, you could write a query that is looking at everything with like the same source ref string in a particular cluster or something.
mhm,
Um, so I'm not sure
mhm.
if that was suggested before and we struck it or not. Because I know
Ah,
that this conversation has been
yeah,
open for a while on the RFC, but that
yeah.
feels like it would be a reasonable thing to put in there. It's not
Yeah, or at
over.
least, yeah, at least I would say a way to. I was thinking about just the span ID, be able to populate that over as an annotation in the customization, and then when the event from the customization pops up, the notification controller will know which span ID needs to refer to, and then let's say the parent child is relationship is already done. I was thinking about that.
Yeah, that feels possible.
Yeah.
And then you would be using like the native feature set. But if that's not possible, at
Yeah,
least another way to get a similar
oh
use
yeah,
here, right, would be to
yeah,
to
yeah,
like just include like
yeah,
because that's completely stateless, right? When you
yeah,
when you
mm,
get the event for the customization coming in,
Yeah.
you might be able to, in a stateless way, get the source ref and throw it in there.
Mm.
Um,
But you may have to query by the client, like to get the source ref, isn't it?
exactly.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I was thinking more about how to include that into the event somehow. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. But yeah,
that's
we can think about it. Yeah.
again, like state is going to be the thing that complicates things here. You consume memory linear to the linear or potentially worse to the
Mm,
usage of the resources in the cluster, which, when you're just
yeah.
playing around with Flux is not
Hmm.
much, and for many people is not much, but for some people is many thousands of
Mm,
things. Um,
okay. Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah,
sometimes
okay.
many thousands of things
Mhm.
happening every second.
Yeah, yeah. I can imagine. Yeah, especially if your environment grows and just start.
Yeah, I mean, and again, it's like
Yes.
that number is not massive,
Yeah.
for a computer. But
Hmm.
we are usually talking about like a single instance of a controller, or maybe multiple,
Hmm.
like running on a node sharing the CPU and memory with lots of other things with,
Yeah. Mhm.
so you give Flux a supercomputer and the biggest and fastest control plane auto scaling on EKS, and you can
Hmm.
do whatever you want. But most people have some sort of compute constraint.
Yeah.
They don't
Yeah.
want to be doing a bunch of tuning. So
Hmm.
stateless is preferred in this scenario, but we could, if there's clean and reasonable ways to do things, like go and try it out, maybe it could
Hmm.
be a feature flag that people turn on. So
Okay. Yeah,
experimental
yeah.
event correlation.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally could see an implementation where you cache a bunch of span IDs and just like map them to their alert IDs, and then you like look them up and then staple them on there when you are submitting the span, and that's a couple of maps or like some hash table.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Uh,
No, thanks.
that sounds
Thanks
reasonable.
for yeah,
Try it out.
thanks for yeah, for the suggestion. I mean, the other way about the source, yeah, my work as well. Yeah, and I would like to test it. Let me see if I find some time. First, I would like
Yeah.
to have this consolidated, and I will add it also in the pull request just to kick off the conversation, explain a little bit the rationale.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, and perhaps I don't know, we can consider it for I don't know, another commit or whatsoever, just to because we may have to, as you said, once we see observability. Well, in observability, when you see issues is when you okay think okay about this, about that. Is at the beginning it's difficult to visualize all these things. Yeah.
Adrian, can you refresh my mental model on
Mm.
it's the controllers themselves that are submitting the spans, or is it notification? It's notification controller.
Notification,
And
just a
this is
notification controller.
based
Mhm.
off of what is it aggregating? Oh yeah, notification controller is reading the
Events, basically.
events,
Yeah.
Kubernetes events.
Yeah.
And okay, yeah, so this is actually a form of like making the Kubernetes events like more durable because usually they're thrown away in a default cluster after 2 hours.
Mm.
So what is on the whatever's on the event information is what you have without reading more information from the kube API. And if
Yeah.
so if you need more info about what's happening, it gets shoved into the event. That's the constraint. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That one of the things that I wanted to avoid as much as I can is like using the Kubernetes client to query some kind of resource. If I can get it from the event, I think it's the better.
Yeah. This is, and the events could be lossy. Like you could miss stuff, but ideally it's good enough to observe the system. Okay, cool.
Yeah, yeah, I will play around this. I mean, it was just kind of a theoretical way of managing this. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
As I said, I will push my code in
Uh-huh.
the pull request, and I will add a comment. Well, after addressing your comments, I will add a specific comment about this span ID, and yeah, we can yeah, resume the conversation there. And
Are
as I
you,
said, yeah,
is this
sorry.
mainly like a point of research or hobby for you, or was there a context around this where like you are an end user
Ah.
trying to deploy this?
Yeah, well, was that we've been using Flux extensively in in the company that I'm working at,
Yeah.
and we thought that the OTel was pretty good thing to have, and we thought, okay, let's contribute to the project
Hmm.
and see how this might fit. So yeah, and
Yeah.
now it's starting to become something kind of that I wanted to contribute from like a personal view.
Mm.
Pretty
Yeah,
good.
because you could see how like having access to the source code, right? Especially in the case
Yeah,
where um the source code of your control repo for your Flux
yeah,
resources
yeah.
across your fleet of clusters, right? Like
Hmm.
if I in my editor like do a control F for
Mhm.
git repo Flux system, right? And
Mhm.
it surfaces several customizations and Helm releases that are deployed to several clusters. I
Yeah,
could add event metadata to all of the receivers that point at those, right?
yeah.
Um, and like, so it would be like kind of like two steps, but like in the code, like you could label everything that you want.
Mhm.
And the way that that would surface in Jaeger across your fleet of 100 clusters, right? Like everything
Mhm.
would come up and it would all be related to each other.
Yeah.
So like even though the notification controller like doesn't necessarily have like a stateful ability to heuristically relate these things,
Yeah.
like anybody who has a little bit of control like over like the resources themselves or some like a platform team often doesn't write the customizations, but they'll have like
Mhm.
patches or some sort of admission mutating admission engine that like
Yeah.
staples extra information into things like
Mhm.
then some people do it with like a CI/CD CLI that like fixes things in the repo like after people commit stuff. So
Yeah.
like you could get these things to relate to each other with like a simple search query. And
Mhm.
that would solve like a lot of the richness of the behavior that you're looking for.
Yeah.
Um,
Mhm.
but I see the appeal. Great.
Mhm.
Let's go play with it and see what works,
Mhm.
and we can always
Yeah.
come to more of a decision on the discussion. I suspect that Stefan will be against um having state tracking things, but
Yeah.
I am not necessarily, as long as it's reasonable and people can turn it off. Um,
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
come to think of it, you may also have other tools that track the state, won't you? Because that's one of the use cases that I'm interested in using what Adrian is working on for. Remember Captain?
mhm.
Captain would be a good platform to do the tracking if we don't want to do it in Flux.
Yeah,
And in fact,
so
Adrian, you mentioned that you're going to push your code tonight. What time
Yeah.
zone are you in? Are you in Central Europe by any chance?
Yeah. Yeah. Should do Europe.
Yeah,
Yes.
okay. Because I'm going to make a point of looking at your code tomorrow and see to what extent we can start using it just for testing purposes.
Oh, yeah. Sounds good. Perfect.
cool. Great. I will take notes on this convo a little bit. This is a really awesome demo. Thanks for working on this,
Mm.
Adrian. I
Yeah.
think people are going to appreciate being able to
Mhm.
export traces like this. We're gonna
Yep.
put this in the release notes, and then SRE teams around the world are gonna see it, and they're gonna be like, "Oh, I'm gonna wire that up to Jaeger." So, um,
Pretty
cool. The only other thing I have on the agenda is just a status update on emit string data in Customize. Yeah, I got a review back from the Customize team last week, and I am implementing their verbiage changes. So we have back and forth established with a new reviewer on it, who seems to understand my desire to get that merged. So that's the update on that. Great. If anyone has any more questions or topics, feel free to interject. Chenchi, I hope that this was okay. He had to drop. Great. Well, we're definitely at the end of the meeting time block. So if there is nothing to discuss, then we could probably stop the recording and say bye for another day.
Yep. Thank you, Adrian, and have a good
Yeah.
day, you guys.
Yeah,
See ya.
thank you. Have a nice one. Bye-bye.